This image and write-up is from the late 1960s and reveals some very interesting and relevant insight into Australia's thought pattern on Aboriginal people at that time. What you will notice when reading much material from the late 50s and throughout the 60s on Australian history and Aboriginal culture is there appeared to be a coming-to-terms moment by many white people, and even the beginning of an understanding that Aboriginal people were far more complex, ingenious, and spiritual than ever understood in the 170 years previously. Caption reads, "To paint was to pray. The Aborigines evolved a complex religion. It was beautiful and unique. So completely interwoven was it with their daily lives that everything, their art, their music, their dancing, became a manifestation of it. Even the decoration of a weapon assumed a sacred significance." And the write-up goes on to state, Aboriginal paintings and rock carvings seemed strangely crude and childlike to the early European settlers in Australia. They did not realize that the simple figures and designs which the apparently wretched Aborigines had produced were the outward sign of an involved and sophisticated culture. To understand Aboriginal art, it is essential to know something of their culture, of the religion on which it was based, and of the surroundings in which both were evolved. The Aborigines, before the Europeans arrived, lived in many locations where food and water were sparse. In order to survive, they developed a sixth sense, tuned into nature, by which they could foretell drought and flood and where to find food and water. The domination of their environment over their lives and the way they came to terms with it and used it were reflected in the size of their tribal groupings and in their laws and social customs. Tribal hunting boundaries, for instance, were strictly defined and observed, and varied in size according to the fertility of the area. In the rich coastal belt, a hunting ground might be only a few hundred miles in area, whereas in the arid center a tribe would hold thousands of square miles. Within their boundaries, the Aborigines moved according to the availability of food, tracking animals, and following seasonal fruits and berries. They were, in fact, so skilled in hunting and food gathering that not only did they eat well, but they had time to spare for leisure. They were free therefore to develop and enjoy a full cultural and ceremonial life. Poor in material possessions, the Aborigines were rich in philosophical and religious ideas, etc., etc. So how did it take such a sharp turn in the 70s, that Aboriginal people are now the enemy? The answer is the greed of the mining industry and mining magnates and governmental political agendas predominantly. Those that spread the word that Aboriginal people were going to take everyone's land and houses, whilst being paid huge royalties, and half-castes were wolves in sheep's clothing, and land rights means Australia would crumble, leading to Asian countries taking over. This hatred has been passed down to this day, long after the death of all those that initiated the lies, that Aboriginal people get everything for free and are paid large sums of money for doing nothing. Looking back on this write-up, we can reflect on it as a time when Australians were at their closest to having a workable relationship with Aboriginal people, but now will never be, due to their own white people, which is only a loss for them as they currently lose the control they once had and their classless culture. It is inevitable as more people migrate here. However, Aboriginal people and culture will simply persist traditionally, evolutionary, and spiritually.